So with that, that's pretty much stat game. Of course, you can dig through and check some of the others, but the big points you want to look for are collision, karma, and game time. So I'll run stat game again and clear that out.
Okay, so that's going to leave us with stat anim.
Stat anim. Hang on. Stat anim. Now let me check this out. If we have, let me bring this to stat none first to clear everything out. And also go to a behind view. There we go. So, and this may be one case again. If you have problems with something drawing over some things, it all depends on the way the current command wants to draw. For example, here I had to go to stat none to make sure I had everything cleared out so that it could draw properly. So with this now, if a lot of information, but on looking on the second line where we have stat anim 0 x pawn, we can see what the current frame of, or what the current animation
Basically,
sequence
he's in
is.
idle rest at the moment.
If I walk forward,
now he's going to run forward,
run backwards,
back,
strafe,
run left, run
or
right.
if I go back to a first person, now we have just the guns animation. So assault rifle, sequence idle, sequence fire, sequence, well, fire again, put down, select.
Very cool.
So it's really cool if you're tweaking, if you've brought in a custom model, go to a third-person view of it, and that way you can keep a close eye on exactly what animations are currently playing.
Right. So, again, very handy.
Stat anim again, take that off.
Okay, so that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the stat command. All right, so moving on from the stat command, next thing I'm going to do is show collision. This is another very important command when designing levels.
What show collision will do is it will draw all blocking volumes and all collision models that may be embedded in a static mesh. Very useful for testing out, like once you brought in a mesh into the game, or just looking at blocking volumes, because it can be very helpful to be able to actually see what you're colliding with.
Exactly.
Simple command, but it can slow down the game a lot as it ignores zoning and everything and tries to draw every single possible collision volume in view.
Well, yeah, the idea is not to turn this on and go play some games. I mean, that's just not it.
Just a very cool debugging command.
All right, so very useful. All right, let's see. What else we got to take a look at? Ooh, our R modes. Okay, let's take a look at those.
All right, this is where stuff starts to get kind of interesting. Now, if we're in a single-player type game, we can actually switch the render mode very similar to the way we can from within UnrealEd.
And when you say the render mode, for those out there that are non-technical, this is just the way that the engine is currently rendering the graphics that you see in the window.
For example, right now we're rendering everything, basically everything.
Right.
We've got
full texture,
all
full
texture,
lighting.
textures, lighting, everything. Whereas if we drop this all the way back to R mode space 1, now we're drawing in wireframe.
Yep. Very simple and kind of tough to play in.
Right, but it's actually really useful when you get into level optimization and actually using this in conjunction with stat render. Because that way you can not only get a readout of how many, say, static mesh triangles are drawing, but you can actually see which static meshes are in fact drawing. The other cool thing is when doing level optimization and checking zoning and anti-portals, you can visually see exactly how different pieces of the level are disappearing from different angles, which is very cool. After that, let's move on to R Mode 2. Now, R Mode 2 is the zone portal view. So everything drawn in blue is the current zone we're in, and if we move into a different zone, it'll draw in a different color. So now all this area in the spike bars is drawn in a greenish color. The other interesting thing is the zone portal view actually shows the BSP cuts as well. That's what's up with the different shades of whatever color you're in.
Just so you can see how your BSP is being divided all up.
Very helpful if you've created like a simple sphere or a simple like curved shape out of BSP in the room, and all of a sudden some block starts disappearing.
Exactly.
You might jump into this and be surprised to see faces that aren't even touching it are actually being cut up because
exactly how you got crazy cuts running all over the place.
That's right. So next, R Mode 3. R Mode 3 shows texture usage. The engine simply picks a color to display as each texture. And it's kind of cool just to see how, basically your texture
how
usage.
How much you're using a specific
Again, as a matter of fact,
texture.
that's probably what it's called inside of UnrealEd is simply texture usage.
Right.
But we can see that all the floor along the ring is one texture, pretty standard texture along the walls, and so on.
Right. Okay, so the next one?
Let's take a look at R Mode 4. Now, R Mode 4 kind of dates back a ways. Really what it's technically trying to do is simply show BSP cuts, but since through all the rendering changes and stuff, it really just doesn't even show BSP anymore.
So
which
it's a great way
in and of itself is cool now, because
Yeah.
we can differentiate between BSP and static meshes very easily.
So
Anything that's not pure white is static mesh.
This is just a way of quickly showing all of your static meshes, if you will.
Or projectors,
Yeah.
or anything that's not BSP.
Exactly.
And again, if you wanted to see BSP, the zone portal view was very helpful there. So moving on, next we have R mode 5. R mode 5 is standard. Basically render as normal, render everything. After that we have R mode 6. R mode 6 is render just textures, no lighting. It'll still render projectors though, but just not lighting that
Just
would
took
be
all
baked.
the lighting out. Yeah.
Right, that gets baked on when you rebuild lighting. So after that we have R mode 7, which is show just the light maps, kind of like the other part of the mode we were just in.
Right.
Now we have the light maps by themselves and everything else drawn in white. And really, almost everything. We have other weapon pickups, the weapon we're holding, static meshes, everything is drawn in white to give you a good view of the light maps themselves. Of course, colored and everything else. So after that, that's pretty much all the R modes you would use. R mode 8 does work, but it's the depth density mode used in UnrealEd, and it doesn't entirely work in the game. You will probably get just a full red screen.
Okay.
So the next usable command, or the next usable R mode after 7 is 13. Now, more of a testing mode, but cool nonetheless.
It's a top
This
view.
actually dropped us into a wireframe top view in the game, so no matter how I look around, my character's turning, but the view is stuck in an orthographic top view.
That's so cool.
So I can still kind of run around the game if I carefully navigate. Also, we have R mode 14.
Which will give you a wireframe front view.
And finally, R mode 15.
Which is our
wireframe side view.
Very cool.
So just kind of neat to be able to take a look at from within the editor.
Right. So now you can see how these various R modes can be very useful when actually designing levels, especially when you get to the professional level and wanting to tweak everything out, make everything clean.
Right. Being able to see more easily see different pieces of your level just helps you tweak those components.
Right. Okay. So moving on from R modes now, we've got 2 more commands we're going to look at. Let's go ahead and start out with hide actors.
As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to jump into R mode 5 so I have my normal drawing back.
Right.
Now, hide actors. This is really cool because everything that's not a static mesh or just part of the level can actually be hidden out very easily. If you do hide actors, check it out. Even our HUD, our weapon, and your other weapons on the ground, everything except static meshes, even all the emitters. So really quickly, it just cleaned up the level. Now, this can be just interesting for testing if you've decorated the level with different, or just if you have lots of clutter laying around from all the health, all the weapons, everything laying around the map, just to get a very clean view of the level itself.
Right.
And if we want the actors back, we can always use the opposite of that command,
which is show actors.
And there we go.
Okay. All right, so really that's pretty much it for this lesson here, where we just wanted to go through and take a look at various statistics and rendering commands. So with that, that's going to wrap up this lesson. Thanks a lot.